The 2026 NBA draft confetti hasn't even been swept off the floor yet, and we are already here, because that's what separates the people who watch the draft and the people who live it. Way too early means getting ahead of the conversation before it even starts, projecting off recruiting profiles, physical tools, and college systems before a single college game has even been played. If you want to wait until next June to have an opinion, that's fine, but we are not waiting. The 30 picks deep dive is going to tell you exactly what you need to know. Let's get into the way too early 2027 NBA mock draft. Tyran Stokes is the most physically ready wing prospect in this entire class before he's even played a single college game. 225 pounds as an incoming freshman at Kansas, already built like someone who belongs in an NBA weight room. Bill Self's program is one of the most demanding environments in all of college basketball for wing players, built on defensive discipline, physicality, and competing in high-leverage situations every single night. The perfect place to refine a player with this kind of raw physical foundation. Pairing Stokes alongside Darius Acuff Jr. gives Sacramento one of the most physically imposing backcourt wing combinations in the entire country. Acuff's quickness and creation ability, paired with Stokes' size and motor, creates a duo that can impact games on both ends in completely different ways. The shot creation off the dribble in the half court is the developmental variable that separates his floor from his ceiling, and his college season at Kansas will be the first real answer to that question. If it develops, Sacramento is looking at a franchise cornerstone. If it doesn't, the floor is still a tough, versatile wing who makes winning plays every single night. Caleb Holt is the most naturally gifted scoring guard in this entire recruiting class, a McDonald's All-American at 6'5" and 200 pounds with shot-making footwork and a pull-up game that scouts are already comparing to guards who carved out long careers as legitimate first options. His ability to create off screens, attack closeouts in space, and finish in the mid-range is already advanced for his age, and those are habits that translate to the NBA faster than almost any other offensive skill because they are built on positioning and decision-making rather than pure athleticism. Tommy Lloyd's Arizona system is one of the most physically demanding in the country for guards. Constant movement, quick decisions, scoring in traffic, and Holt's profile fits that environment better than almost any recruit Tommy Lloyd has brought in. Memphis drafted Cameron Bouger this year and now has size everywhere. Holt gives them another backcourt scorer to build around long term, and those two profiles complement each other about as cleanly as you can draw it up. Bruce Branch III arrives at BYU as a 6'7" wing with genuine basketball bloodlines. His father, Bruce Branch Jr., played professionally overseas and a reputation as a passer and decision maker at his size that already stand out in a class full of pure athletes. AJ DiBonsa just left BYU as arguably the most impactful freshman in all of college basketball last year, and Branch is stepping directly into that role as a centerpiece of Kevin Young's team. A massive opportunity and massive spotlight, but one his skill set is genuinely built for. Young's system at BYU has built one of the most efficient offenses in the country around movement, spacing, and unselfishness, exactly the environment to sharpen the habits Bruce Branch is already known for, and the DiBonsa blueprint of how to thrive in that system is sitting right there for him to study. His ability to make reads off the ball, initiate actions from the elbow, and find teammates in advantageous positions is already polished for a recruit his age. Jordan Smith Jr. is one of the most explosively athletic scoring guards in this recruiting class, a 6'2", 200-pound shooting guard with a first step and foul-drawing instincts that scouts describe as genuinely rare rather than just the result of being fast. John Calipari's Arkansas system has always been built around guards who attack before they think and force defenses into choices they don't want to make. And Smith's physical profile, compact, powerful, with a lower body built for absorbing contact, fits that mold as well as any guard Calipari has recruited. His footwork is already advanced for his age. His pull-up mechanics show real promise, and the ability to draw fouls at a high rate translates directly to the NBA game in a way that most offensive skills simply don't. His height will always be the defensive ceiling conversation. 6'2" in the NBA means bigger guards will consistently try to exploit him, and the three-point consistency is what determines whether he is a starter or a legitimate star. Jason Crow Jr. is a 6'3" point guard with a burst and vision combination that separates him from every other lead guard in this recruiting class. Genuine positional size for the one combined with the quickness to play at a pace that most bigger guards simply cannot sustain. Dennis Gates at Missouri has consistently developed attacking, quick decision guards who push pace and make correct reads under pressure, and Crow's physical dimensions create a developmental ceiling that his smaller counterparts simply don't have access to. Honestly, I think Crow has a real shot to be one of the best scorers in college basketball this year. The combination of size, burst, and ability to get to the free throw line in traffic puts him in a category where a genuine breakout season is not a stretch projection. It's a real possibility. This is a real swing on upside at 5, and that is the right way to draft a point guard with this kind of ceiling. Anthony Thompson is a 6'8" small forward with the off-ball intelligence and shot-making ability that makes him one of the cleanest wing fits in this entire draft. A player who understands movement, attacks closeouts, and positions himself to receive the ball in advantageous spots without ever needing the play called directly for him. Jake Dietler's Ohio State system is built on off-ball movement, cutting, and team-first habits that translate most naturally to NBA offenses, and Thompson's profile is essentially designed for that environment. His 6'8" frame gives him a natural defensive edge, the length to contest shots, the reach to disrupt passing lanes, and the mobility to switch onto guards without being a liability. Atlanta is betting the tools age well in the right system, and that is not an unreasonable bet when you look at the overall package. Christian Collins is a face-up power forward with dribble drive ability and positional versatility that makes him one of the most modern frontcourt prospects in this class. A 6'8" who attacks off the bounce, reads defenses from the elbow, and uses his length to finish over smaller defenders in ways traditional post players never could. And frankly, I'm higher on him than most people in this conversation right now. Eric Musselman's USC program is one of the premier player development environments in the entire country right now, and a coach who has spent decades refining NBA caliber talent at every level is exactly the right fit for a prospect with Collins' raw tools and projectable ceiling. His defensive motor is a genuine strength in the recruiting film. He rotates intelligently, competes on the glass, and communicates in ways that typically require years of professional development to acquire. Remember this name when the season tips off. Mika Murinen is a 6'10" Finnish power forward with the shooting touch and spatial awareness of the game that simply do not come attached to a 6'10" frame very often. A stretch 4 whose ability to step to the arc and knock down catch-and-shoot threes projects as an immediately translatable NBA skill. What makes Murinen genuinely interesting is that he is a high-ceiling, high-floor prospect. The floor is a reliable spacing big who hits threes and executes within a system for a very long time, and the ceiling is a starting stretch 4 who develops enough creation ability off the bounce to become a real problem for defenses. At 200 pounds, the physical limitations are real, and will restrict his early role until the frame develops, but the skill is already real enough to be the foundation of something significant. Brandon McCoy Jr. is one of the most explosively athletic guards in this recruiting class, a 6'5" shooting guard with quick twitch instincts, lateral quickness, and the defensive tools that scouts projecting him as a potential stopper at the NBA level, before he even played a college game. Mike Boynton at Michigan has developed wing athletes at a high level, and McCoy gives him more raw material to work with than most guards who come through Ann Arbor. The framework of the player is genuinely exceptional in terms of physical gifts at his position. Washington is not rebuilding anymore. They have AJ DiBonta. They're trying to compete. And McCoy's defensive profile and athletic complementary skill set is exactly the kind of piece a team building around a star offensive player needs on the perimeter. The upside here is a two-way starting guard alongside DiBonta who defends the opponent's best player every night and contributes efficiently on the other end. Elijah Arenas is the most naturally gifted scorer in this entire class, the son of Gilbert Arenas, a 6'6" shooting guard whose shot-making creativity already looked different from everyone else on film at every level he has competed at, and who grew up watching professional basketball from a perspective most prospects never get. His ability to engineer his own looks in uncomfortable situations, create off screens, and hit shots that most players his age would never attempt comes from genuine skill development rather than just athleticism, which is a much more reliable foundation to project from. The sophomore jump at USC under Eric Musselman will be the most important film in this class. Musselman is one of the few coaches in college basketball with real NBA head coaching experience, and his track record with guards who need structure added to their creation makes this one of the best coaching fits in the draft. The ceiling in Miami under Riley and Spoelstra is legitimately one of the highest in this entire draft. Luigi Swago is the most physically extraordinary prospect in this entire draft class, a 7'2", 289-pound Italian freshman center whose sheer mass changes the geometry of any paint he occupies before he develops a single refined NBA skill, and whose ceiling, if the skill catches up to the frame, is genuinely one of the highest of any center prospect in recent memory. His recruiting profile already suggests soft hands, real shooting touch, and the intelligence to function within a team system, meaning the tools to develop into a dominant two-way center are genuinely present. There are not many players in any draft class where you can draw a line from where they are now to a starting center on a championship team. Swago is one of them if everything develops. Cameron Williams is the highest ceiling frontcourt prospect in this recruiting class, a 6'11" power forward with the length, fluidity, and defensive instincts that make scouts project a two-way impact player who can score efficiently from multiple areas and alter shots at an elite level. His recruiting profile is built on traits that age best at the NBA level: length, mobility, shot blocking, timing, and an offensive feel that already show up in his ability to face up, read the defense, and make decisions in traffic rather than just catching and dunking. John Shire at Duke has built the program into one of the premier developmental environments in the country, and Williams gives that staff more physical tools to work with than almost any frontcourt recruit they've had in recent memory. If Cameron Williams hits his ceiling, he's going to be the best player in this draft class. Trey McKinney is a 6'4", 225-pound shooting guard entering his sophomore year at Michigan, and if you ask us, I think he's one of the most underrated prospects in this entire draft class. A player the consensus will slot in the back half of the lottery who has every attribute to push into the top 10 conversation before the season is over. Most shooting guards at 6'4" survive in the NBA on skill and shooting. McKinney does that and brings 225 pounds that let him physically dominate his position in ways that no amount of technique alone can manufacture. His recruiting profile was built on competitiveness, shot making and pressure moments, and the rare ability to score through contact rather than around it. And that combination, at his size, projects as something defenses genuinely do not have a clean answer for. Sayon Keita is a 7-footer with legitimate shot blocking instincts, real athleticism, and the kind of motor that shows up in every scouting report, regardless of the evaluator. A big who competes on every possession and does not need to be asked twice to run the floor. Mike Malone at North Carolina brings an NBA coaching background to the college game and has consistently prioritized intelligent, mobile bigs who can defend without fouling and contribute in pick-and-roll actions. His ceiling is defined by whether the offensive polish catches up to the defensive impact. Baba Olajuwon is the most uniquely profiled prospect in this entire class, a 6'10" player listed as a small forward whose positional size creates defensive mismatches that teams at every level have struggled to solve because there is no wing big enough and no big mobile enough to guard him simultaneously. Buzz Williams at Maryland has built one of the more disciplined and defensively demanding programs in the Big Ten, and the Maryland culture, intense, accountable, and built on toughness, is actually a great early development environment for a player whose body is not yet ready for the physical demands his frame will eventually create. His handle and passing feel are already noticeable. OKC's patience, winning culture, and development infrastructure makes this the best possible landing spot for a prospect with this kind of long timeline. Thomas Hout is the most college-ready wing in this entire draft, a 4-year Florida senior who arrives at his final season having already competed in the SEC against NBA talent every night, with a professional skill set that is essentially finished rather than still being built. His game is built on things that translate immediately and reliably: shooting off the catch, setting hard screens, moving intelligently without the ball, and making the right basketball decision under pressure without needing to be coached through it in real time. Todd Golden's Florida system demands exactly those habits and has refined Hout's execution over 4 years into something that looks genuinely NBA ready. The ceiling is clearly defined at this stage. He is not going to suddenly develop into a creator or an elite one-on-one defender, but at pick 16, a polished and immediately useful rotation wing is very valuable. Stefan Joksimovic has spent years developing in one of the most technically demanding European pipelines in the world, a system that consistently produces wings with professional habits, advanced conceptual understanding, and a feel for the game that takes American players several NBA seasons to develop. His passing out of handoffs and mid-post actions, his movement off the ball in structured sets, and his three-point stroke are all drawing real NBA attention from scouts who track the Slovenian league. and he will have another full professional season in Europe before he ever steps on an NBA floor. The physical questions are real, at 6'6" and 190 pounds with average burst, but his game has never been built on athleticism. It is built on positioning, IQ, and the kind of skill that ages well. Dame Sarr is a 6'8" wing who brings two elite developmental environments to his game, the French professional pathway and Jon Scheyer's Duke program, giving him a conceptual understanding of the game that is genuinely rare at his age. I think Sarr has a real chance to be one of the best defenders in college basketball this year. His length, instincts in passing lanes, and ability to move his feet and stay attached to guards despite being 6'8" is a combination that college offenses simply do not have a clean answer for. The offensive assertiveness and the physical gap at 190 pounds are the two things his sophomore season at Duke needs to answer before draft night. Dylan Mingo is a 6'5" guard with the positional size, burst, and vision that have scouts projecting him as one of the most versatile lead guards in this class, which makes the fact that he missed most of his senior year of high school with an injury one of the most important context points in this entire draft. Scouts' evaluations of Mingo are working off a limited body of recent film, which cuts both ways. There's real uncertainty about where his game is right now physically, but the upside projection is built on who he was before the injury, and the tools that don't disappear because of time off. For Golden State, building towards the post-Curry era, a healthy 6'5" point guard with this profile is the right developmental bet. Hugo Yimga Mukori comes straight out of French professional basketball without a college stop, already competing against grown men while most prospects in this draft were finishing high school, and that environment produces a physical and mental readiness that no college program can fully replicate in one season. At 6'8" and 218 pounds, with athleticism and motor, his scouting reports describe his transition game and finishing above the rim are already projecting as immediately translatable NBA skills that do not require a long development period. His offensive creation and isolation is the honest limitation and needs significant development before he can be trusted to make plays for others in half-court situations. Braylon Mullins is a 6'6" shooting guard entering his sophomore year at UConn under Dan Hurley, and the fact that he could have entered the 2026 draft and been a first-round pick but chose to return for another year tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. He wants to be ready, not just drafted. Hurley's back-to-back national championship programs have demanded that every player understands winning basketball and perform in moments that replicate NBA playoff pressure, and guards who came out of that culture arrive in the league ahead of their peers in competitive readiness. His ability to space the floor for a ball-dominant creator is a specific skill that gives him a defined, reliable NBA role from day one. Matt Abel is a 6'6", 205-pound two-way shooting guard entering his sophomore year at UNC under Mike Malone, whose recruiting profile was built almost entirely around defending the opponent's best player and contributing offensively within the system rather than demanding creation opportunities. Malone brings an NBA head coaching background to Chapel Hill and the habits he instills in guards. Defensive attention to detail, positional awareness, and professional accountability are exactly what Abel's profile suggests he is already wired for. Memphis is drafting an identity here, and Abel is the purest expression of what that identity looks like. Tunde Yesufu is a 6'5", 215-pound small forward entering his sophomore year at St. John's under Rick Pitino, and if the early projection holds up, he has the physical profile and competitive makeup to be one of the best players in all of college basketball this season. Not just one of the best in his draft class, but genuinely one of the best players on any floor he walks onto. His foul drawing ability, physicality on the glass, and motor on the defensive end are the traits scouts keep returning to, tools that translate to NBA value regardless of how the offensive creation game develops. If Yesufu has the breakout sophomore season his physical tools suggest he can, this pick looks like a steal at 23. Abdou Torre is a 6'5" freshman shooting guard entering John Calipari's Arkansas program with a recruiting profile built on defensive tools, lateral quickness, active hands in the passing lanes, and the athletic instincts to disrupt perimeter players without fouling that scouts describe as genuinely advanced for his age. Calipari's system demands that guards attack in space and make decisions at pace, which will help his development. Phoenix needs a wing defender, and Torre is the most projectable option in this class at that specific skill. Mustafa Thiam is entering his junior year at Michigan, with 3 years of college development already behind him, a level of maturity and refinement that immediately distinguishes him from more raw centers in this class and gives him a clearer, more defined NBA role from draft night forward. His shot blocking is the centerpiece of his entire profile. Disciplined timing, the ability to track plays without leaving his feet prematurely, and the length to alter shots that most centers can only hope to deter. Exactly the combination of instincts and technique that separates legitimate rim protectors from players who just happen to be tall. OKC is making a smart, defined bet on a player whose role is already clear. Masamba Diop is a 7'1" center entering his sophomore year at Gonzaga under Mark Few with a skill set that goes well beyond what most big men his size are expected to develop. Passing feel out of the high post, soft hands, and the willingness to make second and third reads are all already present in his recruiting scouting report. Few's system at Gonzaga has produced one functional NBA big after another for 2 decades because it demands that centers be active participants in the offense rather than stationary targets, and that specific development accelerates a skilled center's growth in ways most programs cannot replicate. Boston is betting on skill and IQ at the center position. Motiejus Krivas is a 7'2" Lithuanian center entering his junior year at Arizona under Tommy Lloyd with 3 years of college refinement stacked on top of the European professional polish he arrived with, producing one of the most technically sophisticated post scorers in any recent draft class at the center position. His footwork in the low post is the most developed of any center in this draft, a go-to drop step and a reliable jump hook with either hand, giving him a path to scoring in the paint that does not depend on athleticism and therefore does not fade as he ages. Detroit is drafting a traditional post anchor who gives their point guards a reliable option in the paint. Ivan Karchenkov's game is built entirely on strength, craft, and positioning, rather than burst or explosion, a profile that ages exceptionally well at the professional level even if it does not produce highlight reels in the recruiting process. His ability to operate in the post against smaller wings, clear space off the dribble with his frame, and score in traffic without needing clean looks is already evident in his scouting reports, tools that teams constantly undervalue until they have to stop someone who does them well. Brooklyn gets a piece that fits alongside their young star without needing anything from the offense to be designed around him. Amari Allen is a small forward entering his sophomore year at Alabama under Nate Oates, whose recruiting profile was defined by motor, competitiveness, and a wing-forward rebounding mentality that shows up in players who treat every possession like the last one available. Oates' analytically driven system is one of the most demanding environments in college basketball. It forces players to make correct decisions at pace, compete on both ends every possession, and accept accountability in ways that genuinely prepare prospects for professional competition. The three-point shooting becoming a reliable weapon is the single variable that separates a defensive specialist ceiling from a legitimate two-way rotation player ceiling. That is the story his sophomore season at Alabama needs to answer. OKC adding another wing in this class tells you everything you need to know about how Sam Presti thinks about roster construction, and it has worked out pretty well for them so far. Ruben Chinyelu is the most physically mature and professionally ready big man in this entire draft class. Someone who will arrive at the 2027 NBA draft having spent 4 full years in college before making the jump to the NBA. His post footwork is already reliable, with a defined set of go-to moves. His rebounding positioning is professional grade, and his screen setting projects as an immediately translatable skill that changes how defenses navigate pick-and-roll actions at the NBA level from day one. The LA Clippers are getting the most immediately usable center in this draft at pick 30, and at this spot in the first round, that is the best possible outcome. 30 picks, 0 games played. And this is exactly how it should feel. Wide open, projection heavy, and full of the kind of debate that keeps the offseason worth having. The real fun starts in November, when these players finally step on a college floor and we find out which profiles hold up and which ones we got completely wrong. Some of these names are going to look like absolute steals, and some of them are going to look like reaches. That is the nature of way too early, and that is exactly what makes it worth doing. Drop your thoughts in the comments, tell us who you think goes higher or lower than where we have them, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. We will see you when the season tips off.